Whatto chaps, I'm Magical Mike and I'd like to ask and answer a few questions about the necromancer elite specialization of the Scourge. Hopefully I can explain quickly what it does, how it does those things, and most importantly to me at least, how it feels and if it's any fun. But first up, let's see what ANET thinks the Scourge is all about. Roll of 80!
Necromancers who embrace the power of the Scourge have learned to infuse the sands with their life force. Scourges raise sand shades, which shield their allies and torment their foes. Their punishment skills turn enemy strengths into weaknesses, granting boons and protective barriers to those fortunate enough to be on the Scourge's side. They wield torches to burn and corrupt the ground under their enemies' feet, lighting the way to their destruction.
I think the laugh at the end of that clip is a nice touch. Anyway, Scourges get to use the torch offhand, they get to summon sand shades in place of having a standard death shroud, and they get a skill type called punishments. The torch itself is a nice and simple weapon. It's a strong condition weapon that adds torment, lots of burning and knockdown, and has the potential to grant lots of shared might to allies. Punishment skills focus a lot on corrupting and removing boons from enemies. Many of their effects just don't trigger unless you do remove a boon, so they are somewhat hard to judge in effectiveness. Between the many traits and skills that the Scourge has though, in a PvP situation or against PvE enemies that do use boons in those rare situations, you'll find that these skills look very tasty. I didn't get to use them against boons myself, but the addition of barrier on the heal and the portal blink skill was noticeably helpful. Then we have sand shades, which are battlefield control beacons that you can put down to pulse various effects around them. You lose access to your regular death shroud and its inherent survivability, but the new skills you get in return are impactful and very strong. You can place up to 3 shades around at once, and they last for a good while. Having 3 up gives you buffs from traits, reducing incoming damage and increasing your concentration and expertise. However, an enemy will only be affected by a single sandshade at a time, so stacking them together just to keep your trait buffs up is not ideal. There is a Grandmaster trait that combines 3 shades into one Sand Savant though, if you want to spend less time setting your shades up in battle. It also comes with other benefits, increasing your target cap on your F skills to 10 on both you and the shade's pulsing abilities. The trade-off is not being able to affect a much wider area, so we'll see what becomes of that. The shades can do a few things. Your new F skills pulse an effect from you and all of your shades at the same time, and it seems that you can overlap with one shade to double up on some of these effects. F2 converts conditions to boons on a 5-second cooldown, F3 creates a strong barrier on all allies near a shade or yourself, F4 is a fear effect, and F5 gives you a barrier while pulsing an absurd amount of torment around you and your shades. One of your traits increases the amount of damage that torment does and adds burn on top of it, making this one's average condition something suddenly rather menacing. The Scourge gets a lot of benefit from various trait lines and has a lot of options. You could build a support Scourge with healing power and blood magic, providing huge barriers for allies and a lot of lifesteal, signets of vampirism, preventing allies from bleeding out while downed, and transfusing them with your F5 Desert Shroud. You could also build a PvP boon corruption focused Scourge, running around laughing as you strip everybody's boons, turn them into conditions and stealing them for yourself as you steamroll enemy Zergs. Even a minion master build is a bit more viable here, since you can apply barriers to your minions, making them even more tanky than they normally are, if that's your thing anyway. The necromancer has always been one of my favourite professions to play in Guild Wars 2, and it's been a very long time since I played a condition damage build that effectively. It was fun as hell just to see how many strong conditions I could push out in the demo weekend. I'm excited to mess around in the Crystal Desert with the Scourge, tormenting the local wildlife and spreading a plague of conditions all over the place. Hopefully the Scepter will be able to generate just enough life force for me to spam Shroud skills more often.